What's up YouTube and what you know, my name is Domino with a 0. Welcome to the first top 10 video on my channel, my top 10 favorite Pokemon of all time. It's important to remember that this list is my opinion and nothing more. Sharing an opinion on the internet in 2017 is kinda risky, but I couldn't think of a better first top 10 video for me to do. If you enjoy this video, please hit the like button and share the video around. This video has taken an insane amount of time, and while it's not perfect, I am pretty happy with how it's turning out. Also, check out some other videos on my channel. There are Pokemon Let's Plays, trading card game openings, trading card game online videos, among many other things coming soon. Without further ado, here are my top 10 favorite Pokemon of all time. To kick off my top 10 favorite Pokemon, we have Ho-Oh, the fire-flying rainbow Pokemon. Ho-Oh is the newest addition to my top 10 and potentially my favorite design of all Pokemon. Who will ever forget the first episodes of the anime where Ash sees Ho-Oh flying over his head? We had all played the games by that point and we had no idea who that Pokemon was. Ho-Oh was said to have disappeared when the original Tin Tower was burned down and has never returned. Thanks to that, he is very rarely present in any forms of Pokemon, making his appearances that much sweeter. Now there's a movie that he'll be featured in coming soon. This Pokemon has the ability to bring the dead back to life, and the few that witness Ho-Oh in person are promised an eternal happiness. How can you not love Ho-Oh? You remember getting Ho-Oh in Super Smash Bros. Brawl or Melee? How absolutely awesome was that? Lastly, just look at the Ho-Oh cards in the Pokemon trading card game. No other Pokemon has had a design like that. Ho-Oh's incredibly majestic design, along with his mysterious history in the world of Pokemon, earns him the first spot on my top 10. At number 9 on my top 10 favorite Pokemon is Sceptile, the grass and later grass dragon forest Pokemon. Rico is always my starter in Hoenn, as Torchic and Mudkip have never appealed to me, so I've always rocked out with the little gecko. Even when he Mega Evolves, I think he has the best design of all three. While I don't think we understand why he went to Grass Dragon when he Mega Evolves being the forest Pokemon, I think his design is great. He's the only grass starter that I like. Meganium, Torterra, and Decidueye are close. The Sceptile is by far my favorite grass starter. As it turns out, I don't really like too many grass-type Pokemon, as this is the highest grass type on this list. Ash's Sceptile was a very confident and strong Pokemon, and while this isn't a video about Ash's strongest Pokemon, I definitely think Ash's Sceptile is on that list. His victory against Tobias' Darkrai is easily one of the greatest victories in the anime, though he did have others help weakening the Darkrai. And did you see what that Sceptile did to the Golbat Pokemon generation? Destruction. Lastly, Sceptile is probably my second favorite Pokemon in Pokémon Tournament, a game that I played my way to Worlds last year and nearly picked up Sceptile along the way. At that time, I did consider Sceptile the strongest Pokemon in that game. With his extremely confident attitude and mighty powerful look, Sceptile earns number 9 on my top 10 favorite Pokemon. At number 8 on my top 10 favorite Pokemon is Greninja, the Water Dark Ninja Pokemon. Like Trico and Hoenn, Froakie has always been my Kalos starter. I've never ran through either game without picking Froakie. Greninja is by far one of the greatest starters of all time and is the third ranked starter on this list. The ever popular Greninja Break deck was the first real deck I learned in the Pokemon trading card game and got me many wins on the TCG Online ladder and tournaments. Now, let's talk about Ash's Greninja. As I said earlier, I watched the entire 900 plus Pokemon anime while the XY series was going on. The show was setting up Ash to win his first league and I was extremely excited. Ash's Greninja became my favorite Pokemon in the entire series until one fateful battle in the final. All he had to do was dodge one fire move. One move he had to dodge. If you followed me on Twitter at that time of the episode, you know how upset I was. I woke up super early to watch the Japanese stream and was beyond upset at the outcome. Anyway, Greninja might be a couple spots higher if the end of that battle went a little differently, but alas, Greninja earns number 8 on my top 10 favorite Pokemon. At number 7 on my top 10 favorite Pokemon is Dragonite, the dragon-flying dragon Pokemon, the original dragon. The way he was introduced in the anime made him seem absolutely amazing. His lighthouse appearance portrayed him as a huge, nearly invincible Pokemon, and we didn't see him for a long time afterward. When we did see him, it was Drake, a leader in the Orange Islands. Drake's Dragonite took out 3 of Ash's Pokemon and looked absolutely sick doing so. Personally, I don't think Iris's Dragonite deserves any recognition. However, Lance's Dragonite in Pokemon Generations was incredible. In my opinion, this might have been the coolest appearance of any Pokemon in any form of the anime. Currently, I'm doing a Soul Link with Neighbor, the rival in our yellow randomized Nuzlocke. During each of the 3 generations we've completed, I've had a Dragonite. It all started in Red and Blue, where I had an in-game trade for a Dratini, and its name was Merlin. Since then, I've encountered and caught one in each of the games that we've played. As one of the coolest and most intense Pokemon of all time, Dragonite earns number 7 on my top 10 favorite Pokemon. Wrapping up the first half of my top 10 favorite Pokemon, at number 6 is Umbreon, the Dark Moonlight Pokemon. Everyone has an evolution in their top 10, right? I think Umbreon is underrated. Everyone loves Espeon, Jolteon, Sylveon, Leafeon, and so on, but there doesn't seem to be the same love for Umbreon. Umbreon is the cute Pokemon I could imagine walking around with me if Pokemon were real. In my opinion, Umbreon is the best designed evolution and the best type along with Flareon. Though Fire is my favorite type overall, we all know that Flareon is kinda bad. On the other hand, Umbreon is viable competitively, and have you seen Shiny Umbreon? This is one of my favorite shinies of all. Umbreon may have secured his spot in my top 10 thanks to Pokémon Tournament. I used Umbreon as my default support through most of the time I was good at the game. As I said before, Umbreon would quite possibly be my roaming partner if Pokemon were real, so it's very easily earned its spot at number 6 on my top 10. Starting off my top 5 favorite Pokemon is a Gen 7 mon, Incineroar, the Fire Dark Heal Pokemon. When I first saw the starters of Alola, I, along with all the other sane people on the planet, latched onto Litten. Cats are my favorite animals, so I couldn't help myself. Add to that the fire typing, which as I said was my favorite, and I was hooked. Torracat might have the best middle evolution of any starter ever. I loved Incineroar's design from the beginning, not caring at all if it was on 2 feet or 4 feet or whatever people complained about. Then its fire and dark type, I love it. His Z move, Malicious Moonsault, has the best animation of the starter Z moves. Everything about this Pokemon is better than the other starters. Admittedly, I will give a tiny bit of respect to Decidueye, who I use in the trading card game both online and in person. Incineroar winds up as the second highest ranked starter on my top 10 at number 5. At number 4 on my top 10 favorite Pokemon is Kommo-o, the dragon fighting scaly Pokemon. In my opinion, this is the best designed pseudo-legendary of all time and is exactly what I was hoping for design-wise. As soon as I saw Jangmo-o, I knew this line would be one of my favorites. I absolutely love these Pokemon. I thought the typing of dragon fighting was really cool. While completing the Pokedex in my Sun version, I carried my Kommo-o around with me the entire time to false swipe everything. Now, we need to talk about something. And if anyone from Pokemon is watching, you need to hear this. I demand respect for Kommo-o. His game moveset is trash, his stats are trash, and his card in the TCG is trash. Why is this pseudo-legendary not viable in any form of Pokemon? If this Pokemon is trash in the anime, like on some irrelevant character's team, I'm gonna be livid. Respect for Kommo-o. As unlikely as it seems, I'm hoping for a more diverse move pool in a future game, like Close Combat maybe? And can we get some dragon support in the TCG to make him viable? Please? Thanks. Anyway, Kommo-o's insanely awesome design earns him the highest Gen 7 spot on my list and number 4 overall on my top 10. Starting off my top 3 favorite Pokemon is Weavile, the Dark Ice Sharp Claw Pokemon. Some might be surprised that Weavile is this low on my list. Pokken definitely caused him to be this high on my list, as he was never anywhere near the top 10 before Pokken. In that game, his playstyle fit exactly how I wanted to play, and I played him ever since the game came out. I've always considered Weavile one of the best characters in the game. Currently, I'm letting other players carry the torch, but I might return one day to be the best. With Weavile, I reached at least the semi-final round at all of the major tournaments that I entered, and now Weavile is one of my favorites. I've seen Weavile in the anime and in the TCG, and he's never really been that special. Paul's Weavile is the closest thing to great that he's been. I can at least understand this one more than Kommo-o, though I wish he was better. I also think they under-animate and design him for some reason. The Weavile in Pokémon looks millions of times better than he does in the anime. I don't get this, but it is what it is. As you've seen, Sneasel is my mascot, thanks to the connection I have with Weavile. I originally considered doing Weavile as my mascot, but there are a bunch of other people that use Weavile as their signature Pokemon, so I decided to go with Sneasel, who I've grown to love quite a bit. Through his mediocrity in main series Pokemon games, TCG, and anime, Weavile has the 3rd spot on my top 10 completely locked up, and I doubt he'll be dropping anytime soon. At number 2 and co-number 1 on my top 10 Pokemon is Charizard, the fire-flying flame Pokemon. Now, some of you just said of course because everyone loves Charizard. Well yes, I am one of those people, but I've been playing the game since Red and Blue came out about 20 years ago, and I've played every single game since then. I know every single Pokemon, so I think I'm a little justified in this. Whenever I have the chance to start with Charmander, I always use him the first time through. I very rarely pick anything different. I considered using Charmander as my mascot, but with as common as he is, I decided against it. Charmeleon is the best middle evolution starter of all time. His design is simple, and he's very clearly a middle version of Charmander to Charizard. I also think his time in the anime was hilarious, getting his butt whooped by a Paris. Many have asked why I didn't play Charizard in Pokémon. Well, as I said, Weavile's playstyle was exactly what I was looking for. Charizard's spacing and zoning characteristics never appealed to me. Also, I think he looks pretty silly in that. Ash's Charizard is my favorite Pokemon in the anime. As I said earlier, he was almost dethroned by Greninja, but he was the one to deal the final blow. I love Ash's Charizard's personality after he bonds with Ash. While rewatching the anime last year, I got quite upset when it was time for Charizard to leave to the Charcific Valley. However, after that, he comes back frequently, but when he does, it's always to whoop up on someone. Gary's Blastoise, Entei in the 3rd movie, Nolan's Articuno, and so on. In the 5th gen, they attempted to bring Ash's Charizard back to save the anime, but were unfortunately unsuccessful as that generation is trash. As much as I hate talking about him, Alan's Charizard in the Kalos League was very strong, but I could never cheer for him. He somehow stood up to the only giant water shuriken that we saw in the anime and cheated his way to a victory. Between the 2 Mega Charizards, I would personally pick the design of Y, while I like the typing of X. All of these things in consideration, Charizard takes the number 2 and pretty much the co-number 1 on my top 10. Before we get to number 1, there are a few Pokemon that we have to acknowledge as honorable mentions who either used to be in my top 10 or were so close to my top 10 that they deserve to be mentioned. First up is Aegislash, the Steel Ghost Royal Sword Pokemon. I love this Pokemon's design. Honedge was my first shiny among many others in my XY playthrough, and the battle between Ash and Sawyer in the Kalos League was one of my favorite battles of all time. Next up is Scizor, the Bug Steel Pinsir Pokemon. How can you not love this Pokemon? Since the 2nd generation, Scizor has been one of the sickest designed Pokemon and a very hard-hitting and fast mon. He used to be in my top 10 but has since dropped, still making the honorable mentions. Next up is Latios, the Dragon Psychic Eon Pokemon, who was one of my original favorites in Gen 3. His battle against Pikachu in the anime Sinnoh League was very hype. While I can't stand the idea of Tobias, I do love the Latios versus Pikachu battle. I think Mega Latios was very lazily done and did not do this mon justice. Next is Tapu Koko, the Electric Fairy Land Spirit Pokemon, who I think is one of the best designed Pokemon of all time. His role in the anime and game makes him extremely likable. When Sun and Moon first came out, he was higher on my list, but after the initial hype has calmed down some, he's dropped just a little bit. And lastly, on our honorable mentions is Heracross, the bug-fighting single-horn Pokemon. I don't think Heracross was high on my list until I rewatched the anime last year in preparation for the Kalos League. Ash's Heracross was very hype in many occasions, especially in the battle against Tobias's Darkrai, where he put up a decent showing. Heracross was one that used to be higher on my top 10 and has since dropped to the honorable mentions. So, now that you've seen my 10 through 2, as well as the 5 honorable mentions, who do you think my number 1 is? I bet you think it's Charmander. Kommo-o? Sneasel? Nope. At number 1, my favorite Pokemon of all time is Mew, the psychic new species Pokemon. Since the first movie in theaters, Mew has been number 1, easily the cutest Pokemon on the planet. The classic playing on the fan scene in the first movie might be exactly why I love Mew so much. I've honestly never watched the Lucario and Mew movie because I'm not really a fan of Lucario and the whole aura thing with it. That might be caused by how ridiculous Lucario is in Smash Bros., or my inability to ever defeat a Lucario player in my time with Pokémon. But I've heard good things about the movie and I might have to watch it. Let's talk about how Mew can learn every single move in existence. A signature move doesn't exist. Mew can do it all. I get that Arceus was first or whatever, but Mew is literally every Pokemon. He's the more developed Ditto. He can do it all. Arceus is nothing to this boy. I wish movies, the anime, games, and TCG gave Mew the same respect they do Mewtwo. The whole story is that Mewtwo is a copy of Mew, so why isn't Mew as prominent or as strong as Mewtwo? Mewtwo got 2 Mega Forms. Mew got a signature Z move? Come on! Respect to kommo-o. Respect to Mew. Sorry. Getting back on track. When I first started on forums for Pokemon, I used the name Mew Aura. I absolutely love Mew, but I'm very glad I changed that name. When I decided to get back into the TCG, the first product I bought was the Mew and Mewtwo collection. I love the Mew card that came with it. Additionally, Mew is relatively viable in the TCG. Not as a main Pokemon, but he is good. With all of this considered, Mew is definitely number 1, but we'll call him the co-number 1 on my top 10. There you have it. Those are my top 10 favorite Pokemon of all time. As I said at the beginning, this is just my opinion. If you have any similar favorites, let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know who your favorite Pokemon are. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit that like button and share this video. This was the first video like this I've ever attempted, and I know there are some rough spots. I plan to do a new top 5 or 10 video each Friday, so they will continue to get better. Make sure you subscribe so you can see more. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day. Peace.